ask that you stay in those rooms for the full 75 minutes, and this is really meant to build an intentional community. So make sure that you sort of acknowledge that. And if you have an experience and you want to trade it with somebody else, make a friend, say what do you have, and then you guys can decide if you want to swap or not. So lastly, we are actually in a space of learning, and there are artist studios throughout this building. Please do not peek into the artist studios or go anywhere that's not a designated location. All of your experience cards have maps on them that show where things are located. So for example, these rooms and curtains, any place with a curtain, definitely don't go in. So just want to point that out as a point of respect. And we'll also have water and snacks throughout the day towards the front. So that's my end of my housekeeping notes. So now what I like to do is I'd like to welcome our executive editor, Malina, who's going to talk about the future. Now we'll switch laptops.
So, is the mic working? No, this one. Thank you.
Can't hear you.
Hello, hello? Can you hear me?
No.
No. Just try to look. Hello, hello? So, I'm using telepathy. So first I just want to acknowledge Mark Hebert, the board of directors, and the right term is piloting through chaos. And I don't know, Mark, how you've done it, but hopefully you're going to continue doing it for a while. And then Nina Zeglerby. So we had a board meeting a couple of years ago. We are a small, struggling nonprofit, and we did not have a penny for our 50th celebration. And Nina made a really stupid suggestion: let's have a birthday party. Everybody can afford a birthday party. So we did one, and then I don't know what happened, Nina, but we've now had 34 on every continent on this planet. Now, my only reproach to Nina is we haven't done one in Antarctica yet. So if anybody would like to do one in Antarctica, we're taking proposals. And we haven't done one on the moon yet. So if any of you know Elon Musk, maybe you can suggest they do a Leonardo birthday party on the backside of the moon. So thank you, Nina. And one of the things, and Danielle, I think this experience has taught us to listen very differently. And what's amazing as we've been doing the birthday parties, how different the ideas are in each of the different locations. And the good news is we're not building a global village. We're building a network of villages. I'm here as one of the village elders. But that's not because I know more than you do. It's just I've been doing it a little bit longer than some of you. And I want to first acknowledge another village elder, John Holloway. Can you just stand up a second? When John was an undergraduate student in Scotland, he'd started a private newsletter with 20 buddies, an art science newsletter. And somehow he contacted the publisher who was starting Leonardo and said, I'd like to start a journal. And Bob Maxwell at the time said, yeah, we're already doing that. And John contacted my dad, who said, you want to be on the editorial board?
Well, actually, it works almost like that, but I started this newsletter when I was still a student, and it arose because art students in British universities tended to be rather superior. It talked about the creative subjects, not imagining that finding E equals MC squared was pretty creative. And that annoyed me a little bit. So first of all, I started collecting all kinds of images that scientists see, and then started this newsletter with a total of 15, 20 people.
And that was in '66?
That was in a couple of years before Leonardo. And my first job was in Aberdeen University, and I persuaded the head of chemistry to let me continue this so-called legitimate piece of science alongside my science. And he agreed to pick up the bill for sending out these newsletters. After a year, the 20 had expanded to 500, and the head of department got rather nervous. He came to me and said, "You realise that little thing you started 12 months ago, it's got rather big now, and it's costing me an arm and a leg.
You were supposed to be a chemist.
Could you not find somewhere to publish it?" So I wrote to Robert Maxwell, who promptly, I think he wrote a written letter back, saying that they were going to start a journal, and the editor was going to be Frank Malina. Well, of course, I already knew Frank because he was one of the famous 20. So I rang him and said, could I put my newsletter in your journal? He said, not only can you put it in the journal, would you be the British co-editor? So I finished up canvassing people to write for Leonardo and so on, and it led to all kinds of things. I got a firm no from the great sculptor of Britain, and at the time, but I also managed to interview Albert, for example, which was great fun. He said he'd give me half an hour, and he gave me 4 hours, and we wrote that up for Leonardo, and so on. So it just grew like that. We had a great time, and it was a great pleasure. So it's nice to join with you again.
Okay, so you know, I'm here today just because they needed someone to do an introductory talk. But Leonardo survived because several hundred people said this is important to our strange career. And John obviously is one of them. But there were many people in the room that were around. Anybody published in Leonardo in the 1970s here? Hey, David! Boy, you must have been strange. David is now the Dean of Arts at Cal Arts in California, and he's going to be performing later. And so